Hello again, and welcome back to the Power Podcast with me, Joe, and my two minions, Alex and Sam.
Well, it's more of an equal partnership, I would say.
I could
I mean,
believe that as well.
Then, in that case, you guys are going in the acid. Dun dun dun. That was a terrible intro. Anyway, welcome back.
You should have
again
done
to
a
the
James
Power
Bond. The James Bond pun, let's be honest.
I could have. Well, if people didn't realise that, we're actually going to be talking about the three big uns today. Power that is possibly just it's so obvious that how we haven't talked about it yet, but pretty much the big three: decaying, corroding, and disintegrating. These powers, these abilities, these substances, whatever you want to call them, they are the villain's greatest weapon against the opponents. I guess we'll talk about the obvious one, the first one, for sort of bouncing off the last time. Corrosive, just basically creating usually an acid, some kind of thing that just eats away at objects or people or anything.
it burns! The goggles, they do nothing!
It usually is
Nothing.
sometime in check. Like I don't know if you guys ever find this, but usually it's sort of like in the same wheelhouse as poison. Like if someone has a poison ability, most likely they'll have some kind of acid ability.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, although they are like different things, I guess it's just that they do go one with the other. It's like I guess it's the same with like ingesting things generally. Like, there's poisonous stuff that's bad for us, and it's like also they may have corrosion, like drinking any kind of acid, like sulfuric acid or you know, uh, any kind of like, burny thing. It's like, yeah, it's poisonous, but also it'll burn through your organs. So it's
Yes.
like they just kind of get associated one with the other, things you should not drink in a chemical lab.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that's like my loose grouping of these concepts.
Basically, you wouldn't want to drink this stuff, just like poison.
But it burns.
It burns. It burns us, sir.
I mean, it's also like, I guess it's like having a physical effect because if you have like a really, say for instance, you have a really big constitution, right? And you've like not just in like a game sense constitution, like I mean like if you drink a lot of poisons, like alcohol and stuff, you may build up a tolerance to it eventually. There ain't no tolerance with corrosive substances, at least as far as I know. I don't try it at home, kids. Don't try and build up a immunity to corrosion because it won't happen. So it's just sort of seen as like the end of the poison level up, I suppose. Because
Also, the
it's like
sick
you
the
ain't
sick
you ain't rocking
irony
it.
to most tolerances is that there's a horrible downside. For instance, like people who can build up an immunity to like toxic substances like drugs or alcohol, usually these are poisons in their body, and they build up a tolerance. But ultimately, they begin to have a dependence on it, even if you have a tolerance. And a lot of the time, people who are build up a tolerance, sometimes the tolerance and the dependence come hand in hand. But that's not without the horrible side effects. Like for instance, say for instance, there might be like someone who's tolerant to a specific type of drug. For instance, I don't know, cocaine. They don't get as much of a high, but they could still overdose on the exact same amount that could overdose them before they got the tolerance. So it's still that thing of like,
Oh,
no go.
also connecting to that, when you cut things, with drugs. I mean, sorry, this has become the drug podcast, but like, they're usually
Again?
cut with potentially corrosive substances as well, like either by design to like thin it out, or as part of the process it just it gets stuck in there, and that in itself can be do damage to you, like bleach or various acids, or like like powders that like I mean I don't know, it's like there's a lot of kind of corrosive powders. You tell me off in the comments, but like that's the thing because they go kind of hand in hand. They're like again in the same lab. My big brain. Ooh.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Usually acid is seen as one of the two. It's either something in a lot of tropes when it's a creature's power, it's usually seen as something of one of the two. It's either something that it is usually more functional towards living creatures. So in other words, most things made of flesh and bone, it will melt away parts of them, or it will melt away anything. There's never usually one that just, if it touches just a solid object, it melts that, but it doesn't, touch or affect flesh. That's a lot more of a rarest sort of thing, even though there are types of acids that might not burn human skin, but could, say for instance, burn away certain types of clothing.
It's also like a visual representation of the poison. Like most poison, like generally, it's like you're right. It only affects living creatures, and you can only see the effects on living creatures of them, like keeling over and dying. Yet with corrosion, you get someone keeling over and dying, but like there's nothing more iconic than something literally burning through metal. Like the alien spit. Yeah, this
Or
stuff
the
is
alien
deadly.
blood.
Oh look, it can kill an inanimate object.
Yeah. I think there's a thing where it's like the aliens in Alien it's either in just Alien 4 or it's in Aliens and I completely forgot it, but in Alien 4, which is a really, really interesting movie. I wouldn't say it's good.
Are you talking about Alien Resurrection?
Yep. I'm not going to say it's good, but it is. Yeah. There's a moment where an alien spits at a guy and his face starts getting like horrific like acid burns. But they never use it against anything else. But later on or earlier on, you see not only Ridley for some reason doing it because she's part alien as well, but also another creature doing the same thing where instead of spitting it, they have to cut themselves and place their blood on physical objects to burn through something. So it means that the spit is nowhere near as corrosive or deadly as their blood.
That just raises a lot of questions, though. Like keeping it, if it's that corrosive, like surely it would burn through the knife that you cut it with.
Well,
if it's
most of the time they actually end up cutting it, and then like that's it. They don't leave it on the knife. They just end up cutting it. Although I think there is in Alien versus Predator, they do find a weapon that is actually like able to resist the alien acid. I don't know.
If I remember correctly, isn't it actually just part of an alien? Like I think it's his tail they use.
Yes, it's the
as
tail,
a weapon,
so
which is
that's it,
because it's like the one thing that can't be corroded, like can't be destroyed by alien's blood. An alien.
Yes. So obviously there's different things. Like for instance, like we were saying last time with poison, sometimes poison users can have different poison abilities. Well, having poisonous blood or acidic blood is also a really cool weapon because it's a two-way street. You can either use it as a weapon or it's a perfect defense. Someone cuts you and then you spray out blood. If it hits their weapon is either rendered useless or potentially if it hits them, it could actually be a sort of a spiteful damage, hit back. But obviously, someone could say, "Oh, well, it's not that big of a deal because like if you kill them, then it doesn't really matter." Well, the funny thing is that if someone kills you up close and personal, it could be the perfect just screw you, I win anyway. Because if you lose enough blood and your blood gets on them, it will start burning away at them if it's a strong enough corrosive. But I don't know. What would you guys prefer? Poisonous blood, or like at least being like poisonous / acidic blood, or would you actually prefer poisonous / acidic spit? And remember, you can only spit it as far as you
I
can
love
currently
you.
spit.
All right, I changed my answer though because I don't spit very far. It would just be embarrassing because I'd be in a fight and I'd be like, haha, and then I just have a little globule like, just gone down to the ground. which would just just be utterly useless. I'm like,
So at
oh.
least, at least if someone like punches you or kicks you or cuts you, you can always wipe that blood on your fists, and as long as you can land a decent solid punch or a slap or a flick or whatever, that blood is going to get on them and it's going to start burning them. And that's, I mean, come on, that'd be pretty, that'd be
Oh,
pretty badass.
yeah.
Right.
No, you know what? I'm doing the blood. Oh yeah, go on, Tom. Sorry.
I was going to say, not to toot my own horn here, but I'm a pretty good long distance spitter. So I'd
He's a
probably
man of
choose
many
that.
talents.
Indeed, man of many, but usually very useless talents.
So
Also,
I'm going to go the opposite. You can be. Yeah, sorry.
no, go for it. What were you going to say?
No, yeah. I was just gonna say, yeah, we could be a tag team. You could be like the acid spitter, and I'll be the corrosive bleeder. Because I didn't know you know about this, but I do get quite a lot of nosebleeds, and my fingers get cut quite a lot. So all I'd have to do is just like bite my nails a bit, cause a bit of bleeding that way, and it's like, aha, I stab you, with my pinky finger, instant
Man, I
death.
do. Man, I do get a lot of paper cuts at work, so I would just be disintegrating through everything afterwards, which would probably be a raw deal considering stuff I touch.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, to be fair though, how many pillows would you go through at night?
I don't bleed when I'm at home.
No, but you might dribble. If you start drooling in your
Hey.
sleep, you might just suddenly wake up and your head's half hanging out of the mattress because you just burnt through it.
And I don't drool, Joe. I'm much classier than
You
that.
don't know that. You
Yes, I
can't be
do.
sure of it.
Yes, I can.
I mean, also potentially, depending on how strong the acid spit is, potentially people might starve to death. It's like they put something in
I
their
mean,
mouth and it just
yeah.
starts burning away.
Oh my god, yeah. It's like, oh, this is a tasty. Oh, come on. Not just like subsist off like freaking titanium and stuff like that.
Matter Eater Boy! I could be him! The
So,
world's greatest, though.
corrosive, that's corrosive. The power of generating, manipulating, controlling, whatever, acid. Just some form of acid power. It's either acid spit, acid blood, secreting it through the forms of, I don't know, peeing it or sweating it or just being able to shoot it out of your arms like, I don't know, Spider-Man's web shooter or whatever. Even just...
Sweating would be bad, considering the weather now.
Yeah. That would just, no, that would be awful. I'd be out of a couch. I sweat a lot when I'm sitting in my room, because it is so damn hot.
God,
Car
yeah,
would be-
downsides. There's so many downsides I didn't realise.
Would have fallen through my car by now.
Jeez. Leather seats.
Oh,
would
what
just
if you
be immediately
sneeze?
gone? Oh my gosh, yeah, if you sneezed, yeah. Shotgun of just acid pellets.
Oh, that would be it would be like a spray. Oh, you think COVID's bad? Like, just have an acid sneeze. Achoo! Take out everyone in the post office. It's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I know, I'm a terrible spinner, but I am a big sneezer. Like, you've heard me sneeze. I sneeze huge. Like, I could take out I can take out an office block if I had acid
I can
sneezes.
control my sneezes. I don't always sneeze like outwardly. I can sort of hold it in, but yeah, either way, that's still such a horrible danger. Just one time you forget to just hold in your sneeze, or even like you get caught off guard, like you're in the middle of doing something and immediately the person that you're speaking to is just now has to get plastic surgery because they've now just been hit in the face with a big old dollop of like sulfuric or something. I'd have to say that is quite terrifying.
You couldn't even a face mask wouldn't save you because it would disintegrate the face mask. It would just be everywhere. God, this is a nightmare power, and I never even thought of it.
It's just bad.
It is just bad.
we do this?
I guess we should just move on to the next one then. Decay. Well, I'm going to rope this in very quickly with Decay / Disintegration, and I'll explain why. Decay and Disintegration are roughly the same in a lot of situations, but they do share a lot of similarities, but they do have two specific distinctions, so I'll explain them. Decay The power to make something either seemingly age up, rot, rust, or specifically shrivel to the point of which that it is nearly completely gone. Some advanced forms of decay can allow the users to completely wither it to the point of dust. Disintegration. There is 2 points. It is disintegrated or it is not. Usually in the opposite order. Disintegration entirely turns something either into dust or back into its atoms or crumble it back into smaller pieces. Basically, any of those different particular points. Usually disintegration is seen as an ability that immediately turns whatever it hits into dust, or into less than dust. So, decay. Usually it would just rot or age something. As I said before, it could rust something. Disintegration would immediately do the similar, but it would definitely go. Now, some decaying powers can just have it where it disintegrates, but before it disintegrates, it starts rotting, crusting, drying out, rusting, whatever, and then eventually poof into dust. But not all decay powers can do this. So going from there, we have that knowledge. We know this particular know these particular things. So going from point A to point B, we sort of know what what we're dealing with here. So decay.
Honestly,
I usually would consider this a power that is usually tactile. I can't ever sort of imagine this not to be a tactile power, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Or do you have any other thoughts on this?
I mean, well, yeah. I was going to have a thought that I think decay, even though the decay is similar to disintegration, decay is the more morbid of the two. I think because there's like even though it doesn't like get the job completely done, there's a chance of it being like half done, and that's just as bad as just straight up getting like minced. If you know what I mean, it's like because I mean we have actual diseases that necrotize parts of the body, and it's like flesh-eating bacteria where it just like it decays your body as you look at it, and you're still alive, but parts of you are just like dying and falling off, like leprosy and all that. I mean, there is difference. Like it's not like have actually decaying the power, but it's similar to what we think of how the decaying power works, where you touch something and it starts rotting. Like the idea of your living body rotting is just too much to bear sometimes. It's also like it starts to smell and it's just you're like a walking corpse and it's just you're zombified and it's just ugh. It's it's just always the worst. It's always the worst. Whereas disintegration, you just get Thanos out and it's almost as if like, it's scary, but it's like there's almost like less of a sort of pain element to it. I think it's like, okay, you're just no longer existing. You
It's
just
more
poofed.
instantaneous. The
Yeah.
other one is either, depending on the part, either very slow, taking months if you're very cruel, years, or it could just take a few minutes. Just still equally worse than just getting instantly obliterated.
I mean, it's also that thing of your reaction immediately after being attacked or immediately whilst being attacked is to attempt to dodge or get out of the way. If someone touches you with disintegration and their ability is just you will disintegrate or you will take disintegration damage, there's not really much you can do. Part of you will be dried or part of you will be missing. That's basically it. Whereas if it's actual decay, it's like, okay, I dodge out of the way. Why is my arm suddenly black and I can't now move or feel my fingers? And that's it. Like as Alex said, it's that thing of it's slow and it potentially is fully scarring, and it's almost that like false hope. Whereas if someone has a high level power of it, as Sam you said, it's a lot slower versus a lot faster. Someone has a full body disintegration ability, you'll either be fully damaged or immediately erased. If you get fully hit with a decay ability and it doesn't instantly kill you, you basically are just you're mummified, and your body is practically ruined. giving you that sort of like false hope of, oh, maybe I'll live, and then, oh, this is no way to live. Whereas even if it's like full up, this is going to kill you, it'll still take a few more seconds of agony before it's finally finished.
And in most games, disintegration is worse than just death. Because in games like D&D, for example, and even I think in this game, you actually need a part of the body to bring back. Because, Decay, there's going to be part of you left. Disintegration, there's nothing left.
Exactly.
You're just gone. So it's both more curable, quote unquote, decay, but it's also more easily resurrected, or more easily to bring back a body as opposed to disintegration, which is if the DM hates someone, just disintegrate him. Then we'll never have to see him again, no matter what Alex says.
I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is that incurability. It's also that thing of. It's also that thing of like. I mean, we have obviously with biology manipulation and healing factor. Healing factor doesn't have this, but biology manipulation has a weakness, which is out of all the ailments and immunities and things that you can affect or cure, you cannot affect necrotized flesh. So you cannot affect something that's given the decay. So decay can damage you, but then if you get something known as rot or necrosis, it basically means that a maximum amount of your health is damaged, and you may very well start feeling ill or start feeling sick, and that's a permanent effect until that flesh is either removed or the ailment is gone. And biology manipulation does not get the ability to remove that ailment, because you need the mutation known as necrosis, which allows you to either fully cover people in necrotizing flesh or be able to turn it back. Which means that you could like make someone's arm grow back, but it's like a zombified, horrible, dead flesh version, and then you could turn it back into sort of normal, or you could be really evil and start infecting them, and then basically start controlling them like as if they're a meat puppet.
So, I mean, even if they are decayed, you could just cut their arm off and be like, well, your arm's off, regrow it.
Exactly.
We actually did do that as well. In fact, I had to do that multiple times because I didn't get the role. That was one of the funniest things in the 8Cs was like Aspen trying to like cure an ailment because my arm was turned into wood, and so it was gonna it was gonna go and cover all of my body eventually. So my solution was to cut off my arm, and unfortunately didn't get the rolls for it the first time, so I just had a stump. And then so I had to cut off, a bit of the stump again, and then regrow it. So imagine that, but like if anybody got decay damage on the ship, I would have to do that. In fact, I think we actually did do that in the 24-hour campaign. Someone got decay damage.
Yes,
and
yeah.
we solved that problem by just cutting it off and regrowing the fingers.
I
Because
think
there
it
was just,
was
there's nothing I
Dong.
could do. Yes, it was Dog,
I think
yes.
it was Dong. He had like a whole arm was sort of decaying, and you were like, all right, we have to remove it. And I can't remember if it was someone who removed it or it was like him who just yanked it off or something. It was something really, really weird.
I think he did. Yeah, I think Dog actually did just rip his own arm off. So, all right, and I'm like, okay, I was going to use a scalpel, but that'll do.
What a guy.
No, but anyway, it's funny actually to go back to your point about like how you can only conceptualize it in terms of a tactile power. I do wonder why, because most users of decay in popular culture that I've seen do have it as a condition that they have to physically touch someone, like get up close.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's because of like the law around death himself. The idea that you can have like the touch of death, and so
Well,
we
it's also
can't
because
avoid that connection.
it's also because of like if you start conceptualizing a feeling, you have to actually have it something that is actually physical. Because a lot of the time, if you don't have something that you can dodge, it becomes way too scary, way too real. in a lot of lore and a lot of storytelling. Like, I've seen two forms of like decay / disintegration being used as a power, not as a ray gun, by the way, not as a weapon, but as an actual superpower or a special power or a magic power. And actually be that special ability. And the first one is there's in Supernatural there's a couple of like really powerful creatures. I don't really want to spoil, but there's a couple of really powerful creatures that literally, when they snap their fingers, instantly someone just becomes dust. And this being, he is one of like 4 or 5 beings that can do this, and it's that thing of that is terrifying to think that all they have to do is see you, snap their fingers, and poosh, instantly dust. Now, yes, obviously we've seen that before again with Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, but again, he has to have that condition, and in the movie, he takes a recoil from the gauntlet. But these beings don't have such weakness. They can just snap, and multiple people are dust.
It could just be much like Power Stealers, that makes for more drama that they have to touch them, as opposed to, well, you're across the room, I'm just going to point at you and you're going to decay right in front of me. Or I point at you and I now have your powers.
It's the thing.
I now suck your soul from your body. It makes it like most of the time they have decay powers. It is in like superhero media and stuff like that. Whereas I'm assuming Supernatural, they're like top tier god level.
Yeah,
they're meant to be
actual
okay.
monsters. Yeah,
they're meant to be like overpowered creatures that they're not meant to fight. They're meant to be, oh, that's scary. Let's run away from that. Whereas these are beings like, oh, I'm going to fight you, but I'm going to put on my super suit that defeats decay.
Exactly. As for disintegration, I have seen... Well, as for decay, sorry, not disintegration, I have seen one other instance, and that is... I guess you could kind of agree with this. You don't have to agree with this. There's the character Julius Novacrona in Black Clover. He shoots a magic beam of time, and it forwards the flow of time on a specific being that's hit with it, or a specific thing. One guy dodges it, and his hand is aged all the way up to the point of which it's shriveled and basically mummified. Now, yes, that's time, but technically,
I would say, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd say that's a bit iffy because, like, yeah, it is actually doing the effects of decay, technically, but I don't know, I don't think it is, actually, because
thing is, though,
it's sure, but there's no rotting element of it.
Unless no, sorry, go on, sorry.
I'd say that, can he actually control time? Like, can he slow time, or can he manipulate it in any way except for speeding it up?
He's
if so, then no. If it's only he can speed up time to decay, then yes.
Well, the thing is, he can do other things with time, but they state that the way that he does time is it's almost like he steals time from people. Like when his magic hits people, he can create bubbles of time stopping, and he can steal time. He can stockpile time. I don't know. Look, it's just a lot of bullshit. Is all I'm saying.
It's anime. It's anime. Just just go with it.
Either way,
but,
I'm not necessarily saying that's counting, but that's sort of the closest thing that I've seen.
Decay.
Yeah, it gave that effect. So that's roughly the idea of like he shoots a beam, or as Sam said, just he's across the room, and suddenly he goes, "You are now decaying," and then suddenly, oh no, a field of decay, and they suddenly start turning into like the guys from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where they start either melting or shriveling up and becoming mummified until they just become bones or dust.
Would they become? Is that the Ark of the Covenant? Is that actually got decay?
I think it was more hate, to be honest. I think it was more Wrath of God level thing.
I think it was just literally like their bodies cannot take it, and therefore they just melt.
Yeah.
Like
that's what happens every time I see.
They had to.
That's what happens every time I see an internet comment I don't like.
Because I think it's supposed to be something like, oh, if you actually do try to see like the true face of an angel or something like that, your eyes will burn out of your skull.
It is actually in a deleted scene from the movie. Because remember the bad guy has like it burned onto his palm, the symbol
Oh
on his
yeah.
palm.
Yeah.
They're actually on the other side. It actually states that like more or less, do not look upon the face of God, for you're not worthy. Something like that, and that's kind of what they do. Kind of when he realizes, oh, quickly close your eyes.
They actually in again, like going back to that though, like in stuff to do with like disintegration and decay, they're very similar in a lot of ways. And the same thing was with acid. The funny thing is, all three of these powers could still be used easily by villains, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
but
all of
but I
them.
actually wanted to say, instead of what would we do, we're actually going to split this off into two specific questions now, as I'll ask you these in succession, but I'll tell you what they are first. First of all is, how would a hero use these, slash not a villain character, like in other words, not a villainous character use these? And the second one would be, how would you make a character with any of these three powers, but make them have like a twist, a unique attribute to their character or to their usage of the power or to the power itself? So the first one is, how would you make a non-villainous character with this power?
Oh well, actually, oh, go on. Yeah, actually, you go first, Sam. You go first.
Okay, because I actually do have an example of a good person kind of using this. It's less an iffy one. It is a very iffy one, I'm gonna say. Have you ever seen Red Dwarf?
Here we go again. No,
Yeah.
not really. I've seen a
Take a
few
drink.
episodes.
I mean, this is like Black Clover, the thing. But no, more or less, in one of the series, I think it's series 8, they actually get nanobots to begin eating away things, to more or less to eat one object and not the rest of it. So to eat all the skins of a potato, but leave the potato free. So decaying the potato peels.
Okay.
I mean, admittedly, it does go a bit cock up, where actually, I'm not sure if it's these ones or other ones, but actually begins decaying the ship. They're actually living. So like the ship begins to become like eaten apart at the seams, very, very,
So-
very slowly, of course.
So what you're saying is, if you were to make a non-villainous character, you'd have it that they would just use it for mundane tasks, like
Yeah,
eating away potato
or-
skins or disintegrating a banana peel or something.
Or like, you know, like say it's Mr. Freeze with his freeze gun, just disintegrate that. Disintegrate the ice around people. Disintegrate his power pack, so he's on low
Yeah.
power.
Okay.
There's ways of
A
decaying. And
perfectly.
there are ways of disintegrating and decaying things without instantly going for the kill.
No.
Like, let's be honest.
Because obviously Superman, he, at any point, he could just put his hand through someone's chest. He could use his laser beams to melt through someone's face. He could, do whatever. Batman could use his batarangs to throw it and stab someone in the eye. Flash could
He
run at
has.
the speed of light or the speed of sound and punch someone so hard that their entire skull just gets completely smashed through into nothing. Considering that he is a fully living grown man who weighs much more than a bullet, moving at the speed of a bullet. He will definitely kill a fool if he punches them. Just saying. I'm not
What?
angry. I'm just upset.
Let's be honest. If you had the power, you could just make someone naked except for their tidy whities, and then they probably would surrender at that point. Because like, crap, I'm nude.
Anyway, this has been the Sam's strange idea hour. Moving very swiftly on to
if
Alex.
someone were to strip you nude, you'd surrender, wouldn't you? Except for your pants.
Yeah, all right. All right, keep digging, Sam. Keep digging, Sam. All right,
Only stealing
we
the
know
truth.
about
I
your
think
fetishes
Sam's
now.
trying to ask questions here that like he wants the answers to, because I think he's going to try and come up with something. But before we answer these questions, Alex, what's your idea?
Actually, yeah, I think it's a character concept that Alfie. I can't take the full credit for this because I think Alfie had this character concept where you had decay powers, but you would only use it on like inanimate. It wouldn't be like if you were going to use it on living creatures, it would be in like purely in self defense. But like I think his concept that I'll expand on is that I would be sort of like, I would be the one to demolish buildings and stuff in a very sort of, cost-effective and safe way by, because usually in order to get rid of large structures, you have to blow them up. Well, my idea is that what if you disintegrate it so that it just like slowly, goes down, doesn't make a big boom, it just slowly rots away into nothingness, leaving no trace whatsoever. And that would just, I don't know, that would be kind of good because you could also use it as a hero thing. You could just, destroy people's bases, destroy all of their weapons. And also, oh yeah, Sam, you had Bob the Debuilder, something which was a
Oh,
similar
structure,
character.
but yeah, I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
structure. But
Yeah.
yeah, basically be able to like Bob the Debuilder, my goodness. Basically just able to like naturally remove things. Not take any way, not damage the environment even further potentially, or require a lot of firepower. Just quietly, you know, destroy things that are harmful that at a much quicker rate. Actually, yeah, would that be something for like nuclear power? Isn't like the whole problem with like nuclear stuff is that it's not disintegrating fast enough?
Oh, again, it would
Like,
really,
I
it
don't
would
know
really
that.
depend. Like, it would really depend because obviously, like, decaying nuclear radiation. Like, if your power is to decay anything, including stuff that isn't being physically touched, then maybe you might be able to decay radiation. But again, there's no guarantee because again, like maybe uranium or plutonium or whatever in whatever particular universe or even real life that generates a radiation signature, there's no confirmation that once that stuff is destroyed or rusted away, that the radiation will also be gone. Um, so I'd have to say I'm not sure in that particular regard.
Well, in my mind, that would be my application of it. Things that you need to get rid of, but will stay, around forever. I could solve the environmental crisis. I'll just like decompose things that won't decompose for like 300 years in an instant, and everything will be nicer.
Clean
So
our
it's not.
oceans.
It's not just evil power. Yeah, I could just clear the ocean. It would be so much. Wouldn't it be nice, everybody? Wouldn't it be nice if
Could,
that was real?
So I
could
mean,
remove the CO2 in our atmosphere by disintegrating all of it into pure
that's
oxygen.
if your power allows you to disintegrate stuff like that. Again, that's if the power does that. Now, obviously, if that's the case and you can disintegrate whatever you want within a specific area, then yes, that obviously that ability would be very useful. You could disintegrate, as you said, like pollution and stuff like that. I will actually say there is another one that is very similar to that, which is there was a character design and idea that was brought to me by someone who literally their whole idea was they had two powers. I think it was like speedster and decay. And the idea was that they'd use their speedster abilities to fight and their decay powers to destroy their armor, weapons, or objects. They would never use it on another person. But the funny thing is that the way that they'd actually do this is that they'd actually also use it in their spare time to destroy stuff like evidence. To
Ooh.
like this particular thing was sort of like they're not a villain, but if there was anything that got in their way that was specifically like going to like prove like them or someone else in their team guilty, they'd then destroy the evidence because it was this thing of like I don't condone this, but at the same time we need to work together. So I'll basically be like a living paper shredder. And it worked out quite well, to be fair. It worked out quite well. So it's again not necessarily a villain, nor necessarily a bad guy, but sort of like cleaning up after the messes of other people, and never using their powers on other people. So I guess we've all sort of said the same thing. Never using it on another living being technically counts as them not being a villain or not doing anything that is technically villainous. I guess the last.
Or could be anti here, like pressure and just for like the really bad people, just make them lose their arms. Like
Yeah.
the Joker. Oh, you're going to do something with your arms. Not today.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it. Euthanasia man.
Moving on swiftly to the unique attribute idea. So basically, this is a spitballing idea with this particular concept. There's a lot of different possibilities with this kind of power. Now, obviously, I've done this before with a few different ones. I've done Famine. One of the Four Horsemen, she can use Telekinesis and Decay. Anything that she decays then immediately can be something that she can control, similar to Earth. She usually manipulates sand, but she can manipulate dust, metal fragments, pretty much anything that can be formed into sand. And then we have Pestilence, who uses space as well as Decay. He can create basically distortions in space, similar to I can start distorting space around this lamppost, and now basically you walk past this lamppost, and then immediately you're suddenly walking backwards, or your direction has changed. And you can alter stuff like that. But you can then also shoot distortions of space, or create distortions of space that can slice through things, do whatever. But as it does so, whatever it hits, it also can disintegrate / decay things. And the final one is he has this ability where he creates a bubble, and then he decays the space. And because he's decaying space, anything that's within that space that has been distorted or covered in that sort of spatial distortion is then erased from reality. And then because that space is erased, it technically means it never existed, or at least it doesn't exist, meaning that it then closes it up. So it can also then close the space between two objects. So it's kind of an interesting sort of fixing move, but it's also very scary.
Ah.
Those are the two sort of ones that I've done in that sort of thing. Corrosive, I've done the obvious couple of ones, such as in game we have it that people can become mimics of certain elements: fire, lava, lightning, water, slime, and gel. But you can change that to also be corrosive slime at level 10. You can choose that, where basically means that you turn into a corrosive substance, and not only are you impervious to be slashed apart and being harmed when being punched, but if someone touches you, you are literally living corrosive substance. But I don't know. What about you guys? Do you have any particular ones?
Oh, I have some good ideas for decay characters. I would like to be, well, not euthanasia man, but sort of like an eco terrorist that, decays substances, like I just said. But one thing would be
Suddenly
kind
hear
of
a knock
too
at
good
the
to be
knock at your door in a minute.
So sorry, FBI. I say this all as parody, FBI. Uh, Basically, what I think two powers that would really go well together would be like, you'll have decay, so you can decay people, but then reanimate the dead, so they become your zombie slaves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it'd be I guess it could be effigy animation, or I guess the necrosis things. It'd be like biological manipulation and decay, I suppose, in the game.
Mm.
Where yeah, basically you start with you instantly rot someone, and then you've got a rotting, either human shield or minion, or basically just something that will attack, for you, or just do things on your behalf. So not only have you just killed them in the most horrible way possible, you've also just, given yourself more allies. I always thought those two things are kind of scary
I've always wanted someone
together.
to play as that, a sort of a lich slash necromancer character. I've always wanted someone to do that in Animate Tales, but no one's done it yet. So maybe soon.
Stay
Closest we've ever
tuned.
had is a puppet master. What about you, Sam?
Uh, it, I did have an idea somewhat kind of inspired by Vampire the Masquerade and Assamite. Although they're the power that is, it's poison, more or less. If they touch someone, within 24 hours, they can poison them after. So if they've touched them, they can go away to New York. No matter where the person is, they can then just be instantly poisoned. Like that.
So it's like
But
just
I would-
instantly decaying someone,
poisonous
so it's like
landmines.
delayed reaction.
Oh, what I'm imagining is kind of like the world's best hitman, where all you do is you just, or probably the worst hitman actually, where you just go around the building, just touch it, like the support beams, leave, and then whenever the guy comes in, bam, all the support beams just begin to decay away, and the building collapses.
Oh, see, like
that's-
landmine decay, landmine disintegration.
Or
That's
disintegrate,
so
aye.
cool. That's so
But
cool.
no, time delay. I always love the idea of being able to time delay something so it's done, and you can leave the scene and have perfect deniability. I wasn't even near that building at that time. Are you
No,
kidding?
see,
I'm
this guy,
perfect alibi.
this guy just walks in, and then like I've never seen him before in my life, and he leaves, and I never see him again. But then all of a sudden, like 20 hours later, Johnny comes in, and then all of a sudden, all the beams just fall on his head. Weirdest thing. I mean, it definitely couldn't be him. Those beams definitely couldn't have rusted like that.
Definitely wasn't that bald guy with the barcode on the back of his head.
It could be
Definitely
even
not him.
worse. Like you just sort of like you can just sort of like animate. If you're like this person, you can just anime plant on someone going, "Oops, I'm so sorry," and just get you like full body of them, and then just like a few hours later, it activates, and you just start, and apparently this person starts decaying for no reason. He has a horrible flesh-eating bacteria. Who would have guessed?
Or worse, just wait for them to get out of their car and then just wrap your hand around like the brake pad. No.
See, I still,
Or like the.
Yeah, go on.
It was an accident, officer. Someone destroyed his brakes. It was the car. He had no control of the car.
I'd say that there's one that technically all of you guys are actually potentially missing. Which, in all honesty, I still think is actually quite a weird one. And it's basically, if someone has like absorption powers, similar to we've talked about these, like the power to absorb power, the power to absorb life force, the power to absorb objects, like just breaking down energy, breaking down stuff into a form of energy that then gives you either power or helps you regenerate. What if instead that was actually your ability? As soon as you touch someone, you start healing yourself, but it decays whoever you're touching. So they're like their life force is draining away, and their body is starting to rot. Like,
So like the movie Life Force.
I like that.
yeah, I guess so.
If you've
Never
not seen
seen
that
it,
film,
but I just assume that it's similar.
it's more or less vampires from the moon, outer space.
Oh,
Absorb people, and as they absorb people, their bodies become old and wizened and just decay instantly, more or less. It's pretty good.
there's one I gotta have an honourable mention for
Okay.
before we go. Speaking of like tactile and stuff, a not very good movie, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, has this character who has the ability of tactile decay, but also has this ability to take his victims into a kind of shadow realm, blacking everything out. And so basically his victims, even though there's nothing in the real world stopping them, they feel they cannot escape. And which makes it far more easy for him to just basically mince them with his hands.
Honestly, that just remind.
That's
I know that we're like not always like doing this, but it does honestly remind me of the ability in Jujutsu Kaisen called Domain Expansion, where literally, if you wanted to explain this, it's pretty much everyone has a special power and special technique and ability. Imagine if somehow, if you were powerful enough to use said ability, you could expand your power outside of your body, and it creates this dome of your power. If someone's inside of it, it's basically welcome to my personal dimensional energy field. Any attack that I now do directly hits you. You cannot dodge it because you are in my domain. That's literally the concept. And there is a guy who can bend and meld your soul, which again, just similar to Disintegration, is the whole concept of one touch and I'm immediately the winner. He then has this ability where when he creates that domain expansion, it's like, I have already won now. It's not about how much damage I deal, because all I needed to do was just touch you once, and that is kind of interesting, because Disintegration, Decay, and Corrosive could always be the one-hit kill powers if they're strong enough. So my question is, if you were to have any of these powers, which one would it be, and why?
It would probably be Decay, actually, for the reasons that I say, because it's something. I mean, if I want to be evil, if someone's nasty to me, I'll just melt off their nose, and look, they've got a wrong nose forever. Only if they've done something bad, like if they're a paedophile or something. And
That is very specific.
I don't know, there's just something more organic about it.
Fair enough.
I'll just say, as an example. But with corrosive, well, we've already went over it. Like, if I had corrosive blood or something, if I sneezed, then that everybody. But with disintegration, I mean, with decay as well, I feel that there is a way to undo decay. You can't necessarily
straight
undo
up, you
disintegration.
can't undo decay. Most powers don't have that ability. Not every power has that power, and I'm saying you just have this ability. So, you're saying decay. I personally would say disintegration, and this is the only reason why. All these powers are no takesies backsies, basically. And if it's the concept of you generate it, or you have to touch someone, or it comes out of a specific substance that you can generate, or whatever, I'd take disintegration any day. Because even if I only have to touch something, and it was based on a specific concept of, oh, you need to touch someone, fully with your hand. All 5 fingers have to be touching this specific object. Something like that. That's fine. I could get around that. Hell, if it got really bad, then I could always lop off a finger. But disintegration, to be honest, is just so useful because, to be fair, okay, think about this. Pest control. You really don't like flies in your house, and you really don't like whatever in your house or whatever, some kind of horrible little infestation. If you touch them, immediately they will disintegrate. If you had to decay them, then they could potentially rot or mold or something. And to be honest, if you're using this against anything or anyone, you don't really want them to suffer for too long. And yes, Sam is absolutely right. In a world of powers, it is irreversible disintegration.
It's also neat,
disintegration.
Yeah, it's also neat. With rotting, it's like I said, it's if you really want someone to suffer, because it's there's a smell that comes with decay. There's you didn't have to post that, Sam. We know what necrotizing is.
So
Sam just posted necrotizing fasciitis in the chat, and it's Sam, you didn't need to. Yeah.
I mean, if I had to see it, you both have to see it.
I haven't seen it yet.
I already saw it I already seen it, because I researched for this damn thing. I know what necrotizing fasciitis is. Yeah, it's real. It's real bad. Disintegration, it's you don't get that effect on it. It's you basically just turn someone to dust. That's a lot neater than that horrible thing that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I'm a pretty vengeful person. I would probably still go for decay myself.
I mean, the only reason I bring that bit up is because I did see it. There was a film called Wish Upon, which I did mention in the chat, where she wished rather weirdly for her enemy/friend to rot, and she began to literally rot like that. She had to go to the hospital or something.
Fair enough.
It's nasty. That
sounds really terrifying.
Because considering how Alex was speaking about being a vengeful person, I thought, you know what? There's a film just for you, Alex.
Yay! I'm a sociopath! I mean, I'm
Uh,
not really. I say in jest, like I know, like there's part of me that is like, goes to the dark side, but I'm too much of a wimp to actually go through with it. So if I had those
I mean, we
powers, I'd just be like,
literally
ew,
started
ew, ew, ew.
this call off by just saying like how squeamish you are that you faint at the sight of blood, and I'm just like, I'm like I super like relate to that so much. Like I can't see that kind of stuff. I'd have to say I think that's everything on this subject. To be fair, unless
Yeah.
anyone has anything
guys,
else.
I never actually said what I want. If you
Oh,
realize.
oh,
Oh yeah. Oh
Sam,
god.
sorry,
Yeah.
Sam.
Sorry.
We got mesmerised by what you sent us, and
Mesmerized by rot.
yeah,
That's how evil Alex can be.
yes, we were distracted.
Oh.
Sorry, Sam. What would you do?
Straight up disintegration, just like Captain Kirk.
All right then. Thank you everyone
Because
for
that's
watching.
just because I have a lot of rubbish in my house. I kind of want gone. Whenever I see spiders, I don't want them to decay and die. I want them to be gone. There's want to be able to point and bam, gone, bam, gone.
Bang, and the spider's gone.
Yes,
You'll
bang,
never
and the
hear their
cardboard
screams.
boxes.
I mean, yeah,
Rubbish is gone,
sometimes
cardboard
bin
box
day
gone.
doesn't come around fast enough, and like I don't know where we get all this rubbish from, and it's just nice to be able to just, Although to be fair, what I would want it to just be is like I just touch the bin bag and everything, including the bin bag, is gone, rather than just the bin bag disintegrates, everything falls to the floor.
No. When I mean disintegration, I mean like the highest on like the phaser round in old Star Trek, where no matter what it pointed at, everything that it would just vanish in a flash of light, no matter what it pointed at.
I'm gonna now ask this is the last thing I'll ask. What is the most powerful form of decay, disintegration, or corrosive that you have seen in something? But you can only say one. In fiction, in a game, or even specifically in a tabletop RPG or anything like that. What is the most powerful thing that you've seen or used or whatever? It doesn't have to be used, but you know what I mean.
Actually, it was that time we were in Kiln, I think. It's Bill's character. I forget his name, but he had a Decay character, and it was honestly, one of the few times in the Animite Tales game where I was not having any fun because I was getting my ass royally handed to me without landing a single hit, and it's all because this character stood on me with his bare feet, and he just sort of like all he had to do was just keep standing on me, and I was just it was like a slow countdown to my death, which was just an inevitability at that point. And
What's
I was
that?
like, that's I can't remember what it was because I had like an adaptability character, and my plan was to just basically get as far away from this guy as possible because I know that he only had tactile. But of course I tripped and fell. And nothing else went well. So he literally just stood. He literally all he had to do was just stand on me, I think, or sit on me, and he just rotted through my body, just every single bit of me.
Jeez,
And
yeah.
it was like that was like I was like, oh my god, it was like it put the fear of God in me. It was just so I was like, please stop. Like I knew it was a game, but I was like, please no. Like he was actually kicking my ass.
Jeez.
And that was so crazy.
What about what about you, Sam?
In game or out of game?
It doesn't
We're
have to
talking
be in
about.
game. It could be anything in fiction. It doesn't have to be in game.
And it's got to be the ultimate nullifier from the Marvel universe. Because all you have to do is point at something and it will disappear, no matter what it is. In fact, it's been stated that if you're clever or willful or a strong enough mind or whatever the excuse is at the time, that if you had this device, you could destroy the universe
Okay.
pointing at it,
My
disintegrate it instantly.
my one is a lot smaller than Sam's. I knew that it would be, but to be fair, I still think that this is way more interesting. Rather than a cosmic level weapon. Um, It's just a character from My Hero Academia called Shigaraki, and his power is Decay. If he touches something, it can then turn to dust, dry it out, rust it, whatever. In the current form of the series, I have actually read the comics, so I know how powerful he is. I sort of get teased, and I might explain it after we come off stream. But basically, so far in the show, because I don't want to spoil it for any of those who might actually just still be watching it, is all he does, pats someone in the stomach, just hits someone, just slaps them. Instantly, this guy just turns to mush. Just all he does, just lands his hand on him, puh, dust, and it is horrifying, but at the same time is hilarious because of sort of you see him grow how far he's come, because at one point he sort of struggles to like basically rot a guy's elbow to the point of which like it's just like looks all like dried up and like cracked, and then like 3 seasons later he just pats someone on the front and immediately just turns to dust and mush instantly. Incredible. But that it gets much better, and I really like that because that guy can use it whenever he wants. It's not a cosmic level weapon or anything like that. It's just this thing of as soon as he touches it, he can then do that. And I think the craziest thing that he's done so far is, you're led to believe that he touches an entirely reinforced steel door, and in seconds it's gone. And an incredible badass moment is just he gets stabbed by a machete. He just touches it, and the guy doesn't realize, and he immediately backs off, and the entire blade just rusts and turns to dust instantly. That's kind of one of the reasons why I sort of roped Decay in with Corrosive, and why I stated Disintegration, because this power it's really good, but there's not a lot to talk about it. We've now like come up to the hour mark, and I'm sort of like obviously gushing over this, but to be fair, like there's a lot of stuff that we all want to talk about in terms of references, and this is what I mean. Eventually, we run out, and I feel like there's a good time and a place for us to sort of start talking about our references. But
I have more references to give.
Exactly, and so either way, we're sort of like gone over now, so I might as well just say like next week, I think I've got an idea for next week, to be fair. Next week is either going to be unique attributes. The trope of when a character has a specific difference in either the world or their race or their species or their powers. Something is different about them than anyone else in their usual normal world or universe. That just interests me. So that's potentially the next one, and that discussion will be a bit different because we actually will talk a little bit about references, like just sort of a couple of examples, and then we'll actually just entirely be spitballing different types and ways of a unique attribute, like different character styles and stuff. So if you guys are interested in listening to us sort of babble on about different character types, check us out when we actually post that one. We have now finally posted the Poison Generation one. It took me a little longer. I had stuff to do last week.
Connor has been complaining
my boy
today.
dirty.
This one will be out a little later, and by a little later I mean it will
3
be
weeks from now.
It will be out the Friday of the week that I record it, so it will be out.
Just
theoretically,
say it is.
This will be out Friday,
July 22nd,
the 23rd of
so you're aware.
July.
This month?
Anyway,
This month. I'm not going to year stamp it, because if I fail, then at least if I fail, I can then always do it on the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then no one will know what year it was done. Either way,
it's the worst year.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us. Do check out our Patreon, the Baytarians Patreon for Animite Tales. Check us out on Twitter. I'm at Animite Tales, also known as Ongoer Joe. And if you guys have enjoyed this sort of discussion, we do many of these Power Podcasts, and we also do Campfire Stories, where we talk about different things that people have done in their RPG of the tabletop So if you guys enjoy that, and if you guys want to see more of our content, definitely check us out at Anime Tales on YouTube. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful night.
Bye.
See you in the future.
That was a really long one to go on for there, Sam. Ciao, ciao for now.